going up another further 3 planks here. Basically it's just what I've been showing you, apart from here at the front. Right, what we've got is you want to taper these 3 rows about 1 mil, just like we did at the rear over here. Right, only at the rear here you want to go up row 7 and 8, you want to taper about 1 mil, but the 9th row no need to taper. Right, now what you'll notice is in the actual magazines, I'll just get it out here. What it wants you to do is it wants you to cut out this template and use that template for cutting the back here. However, it's one of these things where, I mean, you could do that, you could make your template to cut this you know, the way it's supposed to be, but it is easier if we just, you know, let this hang, these 3 rows hang, build up all your rows of planks, and then put the template on and cut it all in one go. So I'm just leaving that and I'll cut that later. But what I want to show you now, so next thing we want to do is we've got to put some planks going up here. You know, of course, make sure everything's, you know, sanded nice and flush, and we're not going to have anything bulging out to prevent stuff from going down nicely. But for this I want to use super glue. Now obviously, you know, you need to sort of come along and cut this to length, which I would just say, you know, cut it you know, so that you've got maybe like 1 mil or 2 overhang both sides. Right. Ooh. Right, just like so. And with the super glue, you know, I find it you know, it can be quite easier than using our wood glue and stuff, because I mean really we could just literally get a bit of super glue either end, right, and we can just glue that straight down, hold it for a little bit, and then it's locked into place. We haven't got to be bothering with nails or anything like that. I probably will show you actually doing some of the planking actually on the hull using like super glue, because it is, you know, a totally different method. It is potentially a method for you guys who want to go off and actually not paint your model. You want to show that wood effect. Super glue is probably the best thing, because you know, you haven't got to put nails in there or anything like that. The one thing we've got to watch out for is if we, you know, glue this into place, if we've had any sort of like oozing out super glue or something, you know, come out here, right, if that dries, right, it will sort of hinder putting the next plank on, which I did have one ready in line about, but I've seemed to have misplaced it. But here's a little scrap piece. Yeah, you don't want to have the super glue coming out, because it will sort of like push it up and leave a bit of a gap, right? So that's the thing you got to watch out for. We need to then work our way all the way up now. So worked our way up with the planks, and just like we did at the rear, right, we just want to start to cut away at these planks, right, and we cut them close to where we've attached these planks to, and then we just give that a sand. It might be a bit tougher than usual because we have used super glue, but it does cut, as you can see there. And basically, to bring you in, we then want it to look like this side that I've already done, where I've just trimmed it with our knife and give it a nice bit of a sanding, and that there's all nice and done. Right, I've now worked my way up to the 11th and coming into the 12th rows here with our planks. Now it gets a little bit tricky because there is sort of like 2 ways this can go, because these builds are, you know, not everyone is precisely the same. You know, this could go one of 2 ways. Now what the instructions want you to do is it wants you to sort of, right, you know, where does your 11th plank come to regard these forms here. Now what you want it to do is, if it comes nice and flush, right, which mine almost does come nice and flush, or just slightly above our forms here. Then you're fine. You know, go on as you've been going on throughout this build, coming around our bow section here with like bending it round, and you're fine. But if yours, say, comes you know, it comes below our forms, right? Because I mean, really, I've got to taper this off like I've been tapering all these along here, so it's going to come below the forms here. Okay, so what this means is we need to sort of taper this 11th layer a little bit more, right? Because what we've got to do is, I mean, if we taper this a bit like we've been doing with all the others, it's going to leave a gap. I'll just show you because I've already done the one side. Hopefully you could just see here, I've already tapered this side. I've tapered it a little bit more, right? And the reason for this is because we've got to get the 12th layer to actually be able to kind of, you know, grip onto these forms here, to be able to wrap around with the 12th layer. So what we want to do is we do the usual thing, you know, we get our ruler here, we find our best side, which is this side, right? And we're just going to do our usual. This time I'm going to do about a 3mm. I mean, I've been doing about 1 or 2mm tapering it, but I'm doing about 3-ish mil this time, right? And then what you want to do is we come back to our model here, right? And we want to just sort of, I mean, this is a different way of doing it. I know the way we've sort of been doing it through the instructions has been, we'll butt up the one end, right, where it kind of butts up, and then we'll sort of like bend the iron round to here, and then we trim this end off. But this time I want to get this one right, so what I'm doing is I'm buttoning up this end. I'm going to work this around to this bulkhead here, which is, I do believe, the bulkhead or rib 13. All right, and we're going to give that a mark, right? And we want to taper it from where we've just done this mark. Right, so getting a ruler and another piece as a bit of a support, and just like we've done before, right, we'll put this up and we'll draw a nice straight line from where we've marked the width of about 3mm ish all the way down to rib 13. Right, then, so as you can see, I've tapered this, and I've tapered it more than I've done the other ones, and that's just so as when we do actually wrap this around, you know, we've got a bit of space here for like our 12th layer to actually have something to stick to. Now what we want to do, let's just bring this around a little bit, is just here at the front, right, we just want to push it up past, as you can see, just past, let's bring you in. Right, this is where it's sort of ending, as you can see that line there. We want to push it in and past, right? So we've got a little bit extra going on there, right? And we then just want to, off camera there, we then just want to follow this all the way around. Let's get you on camera for the last bit, holding this in position, bring it all the way around until we get to where it should be ending, which is right there, and then getting a pencil just off camera, right, and then that's where we want to cut. So just cut that off camera to length, and then you want to check it again, you know, making sure we butt it up nicely here and work it our way around to the front of the bow section. And I can just see there that you know, we've got a little bit of hang going on at this end, which we'll trim off once we've got this glued into place. Now I've had a few emails of people kind of asking questions about putting the planking on, different ways, different techniques, people even giving me a bit of advice and everything, which is fantastic from you lot. So what I want to do, I want to sort of quickly show you again a bit of a different way of putting the planks on, and I thought this one being a nice tricky one as well, where we've got to wrap it around the bow. You know, it'd be good for me to show you sort of in real time me actually putting this on. So just going through the process. Right, I've already sort of dipped this in nice sort of lukewarm water and left it for like maybe 10 minutes or something. And what I'm going to do here, right, is what I like to do anyway. Let's bring our ship back in here. Let's place this on, and what I like to do is I like to get my pencil and I like to make a quick mark at about what is this, rib 13, and then it's here, right, it's right here. Let's bring it around again. This model's so big. Right, it's right here where it really does sort of have to sort of curl around. So I just like to mark either side there, and these are just indications of this is where I want to start actually bending, and this here is where it really starts to kind of curve around. So I want to sort of really give it a bit more curve at those two marks there. Right, so getting our, sorry, I got this wrong way around. Getting our, and the other thing is make sure you orientate this right. So sort of look at your model and sort of like, right, you want the bend to go this way, because I have done it where you've put it down and you've put the bend the opposite way and you've got to sort of throw it away and start again. So we want it to bend that way, so let's lay it down so it does bend that way. Right, which does mean that, okay, hold on, let's get you on the second camera, because I've had to change the camera angles just so I can get a better view here. So I'm just working on the camera 2, which isn't the better camera, so I'm looking at my marks, right, and that's where I want to start me bending. Just quickly cut away, just to quickly sort of the marks that we made on this side, I have just gone off and sort of made them, wrap the marks around just so we can see them when we're bending, because it's sort of opposites going on there. And what we want to do here is I want to show you how to sort of like bend this. So we've got our bending iron, right, and what we want to do is just start, basically we kind of want to just start heating this up, right, and I'm just applying light pressure, hopefully, as you can see here, and we've already got a good curve with this wood, right, because hopefully, as you can see, this is where we made our first mark where we want to start bending. Right, let's maybe zoom you in a little bit. Well, we've got our mark just here where we want to start bending, and then this is where we want to really start bending, which actually this piece of wood sort of really sort of represents that measurements quite well. Right, so we just want to basically start to bend this, right, and literally, I mean, I personally don't mind just actually going off and making it to the shape of the wood, because as I say, you know, this wood is quite good for HMS Victory, right. Now also, when it does come to actually doing bending, I don't think you have to be like mega precise or anything like that. I'm just sort of like bringing this all the way around now, just putting that along, and there we go. This bending iron, the amount of times I've burnt myself on it, so you want to be careful with that. And as you can see, that has put a nice, simple, quick, easy bend in there. Now, as I say, you don't have to be mega precise, I don't think, because I mean, we're going to be going off and doing a heap load of sanding, you know, after the, once we've like got all this done. So, you know, putting this on after we've done some bending, right, we can just plain and simply, maybe it was best if we stayed there, plain and simply, you just want to test it, right, and if you can get that to nicely fit, button that up, right, then, you know, you're all good to then sort of go off and start to put this into place. But as you can see, I mean, you can sort of bend it and push it into shape a bit itself anyway, without sort of like bending it to absolute sort of perfection. Right, let's move this around. Now if you remember, I did mention, you know, it is really good idea, you know, to get your drill bit and just drill at a slight angle right on the end, right, just to get our, and I think it's something like a 0.3 drill bit. There we go. And that's just all good for us to put our, you know, our first pin in, right, and it just saves us splitting that wood, because that is a problem a few of you have emailed me about. And yeah, you know, that simple bit of a drill of a hole and it'll stop it from splitting. It is also kind of good to sort of keep this a little bit moist as well, even after bending, because when it does fully dry, the wood does tend to sort of really sort of lock into that position. But while it's still a little bit damp, I mean, you can, I mean, you don't want to be sort of really sort of bending it, because you're going to probably snap it without the bending iron, but it does give you a bit of play to do those final fine adjustments, right? Also with the glue, I have found that this glue is rather thick, so what I've done is I've literally opened up the lid, poured water in there and thinned it down to make it not as thick, because this was really thick, but it does depend on, you know, what you buy. You might sort of want to mess about with it or not, depending on, you know, whatever it is you brought, but having the right thickness does sort of help. So let's bring back in our HMS Victory here, and actually let's play a bit of cameraman. Sorry, it really is hard to actually get this on camera, but here we go. What I like to do is another way is we can start off with a blob of glue going into there and then run it along, right, and then give it a bit of a squeeze where the ribs are and just let it just flow out naturally as you run along. Give it a bit of a squeeze there, right, and we just work our way all the way along. Again, sorry, this thing is massive, right, oops, see, because I'm trying to do this at a different angle, I'm not quite used to it, so a bit of a squeeze. I've made a right mess with this, sorry, this is just down to like the angle. But there we go. And what this does is, after we sort of like clean up a little bit, what we've basically done here is, you know, we've got glue absolutely everywhere. So I'm going to play cameraman again. There we go. Right, we've got glue absolutely everywhere now, you know, where the ribs are, where it's going to lock in, as well as gluing really nice and hard to all our planks of wood as well. So coming in, right, we've got our first plank here, we've got our hole we've drilled, and we can just literally just sort of like place this in, and get that going there, and then you know, coming in with our nailer here, a bit hard to get you on camera, but basically I like to push that way and down, right, so we really sort of like get it locked in. Now after you've done like X amount of nailing, that's gone in too far, which you've got to be careful, but you know, after you've done so much nailing, you do sort of get the feel for it, right, but don't worry, you can just pull these out quite easily if you have any problems. So let's try this again. And let's try and really sort of get this at an angle. Remember, pushing aft and down. That's going in a bit better. As you can see, I mean, it is a timely process, and you know, you do work out that so much pressure you put down on each nail, you know, depends if it's going to go all the way through or not, because I mean, you can literally be, you know, you put so much pressure down and then it literally just goes boom, or you know, it really is quite a fine sort of pressure you need to get down there, so you've got to be sort of like careful, you've got to give it a bit of oomph, right. As I say, we put that in there. I like to sort of, I don't know if we can get you in, a bit more, but I like to sort of, so let's get this pushed down, in and down. I like to have sort of like it pushed out the nail a little bit, so you can see where it's going to go, and then you can push that in, remembering to push it down. Right, and there we go. And we want to sort of just like work our way all the way across here. See if we can get you on camera at the front. You can miss some out if you want and sort of come back and nail it later, but as we work our way around, let's try and get one here, which is like where it really sort of curves around. Right, and we want to push down, remember, push in and down. Right, having a little bit of a nail showing there, so we know where it's going to go, and give it just that right force that really you can only work out with a nice bit of experience. And then we just work our way around with all the nails.